right, please, let's take our seats. Good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
We're here to have our next millage rate hearing. We'll have a follow-up one at 6 p.m. this afternoon before our regular board meeting. Before we start, I'm going to ask that we stand and have a silent moment of prayer, and I'm going to ask that you keep the people in Texas as well as Ohio in your prayers, and be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, as I said earlier, this is a public hearing for a proposed millage rate. We're going to ask that Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Ramona Bivens, take the mic. Ms. Bivens.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chair, and Commissioners. This is the second of 3 required hearings on our millage rate adoption. As you stated earlier, we had the third one at 6 p.m. this evening and adopt the final millage rate during the regular board meeting tonight as part of the regular business agenda. Each year, the board is required to set a millage rate at a level to support the maintenance and operations of the county. We're also required to advertise the current year digest and the 5-year history of our tax levy, and hold 3 public hearings if the proposed millage rate is greater than the rollback rate, which is considered an increase in taxes. The calculated rollback rate for 2019 is 15.084, and it's considered revenue neutral. In other words, it generates the same amount of revenue as we did in the previous year. The board unanimously approved a budget which was supported by maintaining the 2018 gross millage rate of 20.819, which was lowered last year from 2016 and 2017. After applying the loss credit, we had proposed a net millage rate of 15.858, which is an increase of 2.62 from last year's net millage, which is a result of the decrease to the sales tax credit. The initial tax assessment estimates were was what we used to use the preliminary digest rather to project that back in April. Those assessment notices were mailed in April. The deadline to appeal the assessed values was June 10th, and we received a lockdown digest from the tax assessor's office on June 19th, which we used to calculate the millage rates. Any increase in the digest would have a positive effect on the revenue. A decrease would have a negative effect. This is our tax revenue estimates based on the proposed gross and net millage rate based on the digest. As you can see, the net assessed values increased from last year to this year. The base millage rate remained the same. However, the sales tax credit decreased by 2.62. It was 5.223 last year. It was 4.961, and that's attributed to 2 things: the increase in property values as well as a decrease in the sales tax collections. So the net millage rate originally proposed for 2019 was 15.858. The gross property tax levy is $118 million, and we use a 97.5% collection rate. So we have tax revenue that we are confident we will collect us $115 million. This is the 5-year history and current year digest that I referenced earlier that we are required to advertise, and we also have to submit this. Mr. Baskin, the tax commissioner, has to submit this to the State Department of Revenue so that he can bill. As you can see on here, we continue to see increase in real and personal property, as well as increased values in all other categories except for motor vehicles, which we continue to see a decline due to implementation of the TABT a few years ago. And if you look at, you can see in 2015, that was the last where it started going down. And it went from that $11 million, I'm sorry, wrong line, 432 to now to $112 million. So our total gross digest increased by $496 million. The gross property values increased. The exemption decreased though by $135 million, resulting in a adjusted net digest of $7.5 million, which is $331 million more than last year's. As we stated, we're keeping the gross millage rate at 20.819. After applying the sales tax credit, the net millage rate was 15.858. And again, this is due to the sales tax credit being lower because of the lower sales tax collections last year and an increase in the values. I went too fast. This one shows the same for the fire district because we do have a millage rate set for the fire district, and it's similar to the maintenance operation digest that I just showed you, where we're experiencing increased values in that area as well, except for motor vehicles, again, due to the change in legislation. The gross fire fund digest was $5.2 billion, which is an increase of $414 million. However, their exemptions increased by $30 million, from $658 million to $688 million. So the adjusted net fire digest had an increase of $384 million after applying the exemption, and we are leaving their millage rate at 5 mills, which we anticipate collecting $25.8 million at the 97% collection rate that will support the fire fund's budget. This just shows the total for all values for both M&O and fire fund. The total increase countywide increased $716 million, and the taxes levied for both will be $145 million. So our net millage rate that we initially proposed for incorporated Clayton County would be net millage rate of 15.858. Unincorporated Clayton County would be 20.858, as the fire district fund millage is included in that, the 5 mills. And the schools proposed, well, they actually adopted last night. They adopted a millage rate of 20 mills last night. So the question that even myself as a homeowner would like to know, when the taxes increase, how does that impact my home? So what I did here is show the slide of last year's residential values. This is on a residential home, on a home valued at $150,000. Last year, their taxes was a little over $1,000, and if this year, if the value did not change, they would have an $13.10 increase in their property values at the 15.858. If they had a $10,000 increase in their values, it would go up $86. This slide shows the same for commercial property. At $450,000, they would go up $47 if we adopted the millage rate of the 15.858, and if their value remained the same as last year. If their value is increased by $10,000, it would go up $130.59 or 59 cents. One of the questions that I discussed, one of the things I talked about last time was our millage rate being one of the highest in the metro area. While that is true, we have to also look at the property values in each county, because what 1 mill generates in Clayton County is not as much as what 1 mill generates in another county. As a matter of fact, we just got some information today. The city of Atlanta's 1 mill in the city of Atlanta generates $25 million. In order for us to generate that same $25 million, we would have to, it would take 3 mills, because ours generates about $7 million for 1 mill. So to get to that $25 million would be a little over 3 mills that we would have to assess because of the property values. So this slide just shows based on average sales price, because I couldn't get everybody's total digest, how much, if we use these values in each county, well, you can see we're at the lowest end with the average sales price, that 1 mill for Clayton County is $49.82 based on this. whereas in Cobb it's $93, DeKalb is $71, Fayette $89, Fulton $89, Gwinnett $82, and Henry is $63. However, the cost of providing services, for the most part, if we want to provide the same services, we need to generate an equivalent level of revenue as well. I've talked to most of you about an update that we received on the digest shortly after we had our first hearing, where there was an increase to our commercial property. Our initial assessment in April did not include the inventory of one of our larger employers in the county. The initial assessment value sent out in April had it valued at $16.1 million. However, once the inventory and the Freeport exemption was included for that particular company, the revised net fair market value in July was $203.6 million. However, we can't reflect that in the digest because the digest has been locked down, so it would generate additional revenue. So what I did is to account for that additional revenue, it's about at $3 million. It would allow us to reduce the gross millage rate by 0.262. And after applying the sales tax credit, it would, the proposed 2019 gross millage rate would be 20.557. And after applying the sales tax credit, that would remain the same. It would allow us to maintain the net millage rate from last year, the 15.596. So my recommendation is to adopt the millage rate tonight at the 15.596, which is the same as it was last year. Now, how that would impact the property owner, whereas before it was an increase to someone whose value didn't change. So if their value was $150,000 last year, $150,000 last year, and it's the same this year, they won't have an increase in their taxes. Whereas with the 15.858, it would have been an increase. So by maintaining that same millage rate, that particular homeowner would not have an increase in their property values. Also, if their value decreased, they would see a decrease in property values because you would be applying that millage rate to a lower property value. However, on the flip side, if the home increased by $10,000, then there would be an increase of $82.38, and again, that would be solely due to the increase of that property value. The same thing for a commercial property, as I used in an earlier example, whereas if the property value didn't change, I used $450,000. If it didn't change, remained the same as last year, that would not be an increase because the millage rate would be the same. However, if there was a $10,000 increase for them, their increase would be $82.38 as well, the same as the residential, if there's an increase in that one particular home. So if the values again remains the same, there would be no increase at maintaining the same millage rate that we had last year. If their property values went down, their taxes would go down if the values went down because we're using the same millage rate as last year. However, if the property value increases, then it would go up due to the increase in the property value. The remaining hearing dates, this is the second of 3 hearings. The third hearing will be this evening at 6 o'clock. And we will have the adoption of the millage rate at 6:30 during the regular business meeting agenda. And again, we're recommending maintaining the 15.596 and not the 15.858 that was calculated based on the lockdown digest. That concludes my presentation, Mr. Chairman, and do you all have any questions?
All right. Are there any questions for Ms. Bivens from board members? Any questions? Ma'am? Any questions from board members?
Explain to us what, and thank you for that presentation. It made some clarity to me as well. The tax credit, just explain to me what that tax credit and how it's derived.
Okay, so the sales tax credit, the presumption of that is that as if you live in the county, you shop in the county, and so therefore you pay sales tax. So to avoid double taxation, we give all residents a credit for that. And we calculate that it's based on the collection of the prior year for the calendar year, as well as the current year net assessed values. So you take that number, you divide it by the net assessed values, and it gives you the credit. Okay. So if the property values go up and the sales tax go down, that credit will go down as well. Okay. If you have the opposite, it will go up as well, where you would get more of a credit, and that would lower the taxes. So I always encourage people to shop in the county. I met with the delegation last week, and some of them didn't even know this. When you shop online, they ask for your zip code. Mm-hmm. The taxes come to Clayton County. If you go to Macy's, and I go to Macy's all the time, if I don't find what I want there, I go online and buy it, and my taxes still come to Clayton County, even though I didn't go to that store. Same thing with Target. You shop at Target, even though they don't have a store here, those sales tax come to us. So I urge people to always, if you can't find it in a local store, if they have an online store, shop online. The more sales tax come, the more sales tax we collect, the higher that credit can be, and that will lower your property taxes.
So Ms. Bivens, Director Bivens, Mr. Chair, if I can say this. So you're telling me that we need to start having shopping parties in Clayton
Yes,
County?
she's
You know,
not
I like
saying
to
that.
shop,
She's
and
not
you do
saying
too, yes. And I'll be happy to train you how to do it.
Any other
I knew
questions?
you would.
Any other questions, Ms. Bivens? Commissioner Gray.
Yes, ma'am.
Last year, we rolled back half meal, right? So this 15 point whatever represents
We actually went back a full meal last year.
full meal.
We reduced the gross millage rate, so the net sales tax, because it was 16.596, we went to 15.596 last year, a full meal last year.
And just to piggyback on what Commissioner just stated, we did roll it back a full meal, but also there were not placed in the budget for some things for cleaning up the county, as well as some other things that we put in the budget the citizens have been asking for. And
There
the
was
other
some-
point,
go
no,
ahead.
I'm gonna let you, I want you to do both, and I'm not,
Okay.
is the fact that we still had the funds in our calculations from the jet fuel tax. Is that true? So if you could speak to both of those, that's all I wanted to say.
So first, the first comment, we did leave out several things in the budget last year because we rolled back the millage rate. Again, one meal for our county is a little over $7 million. So it's about $7 million of items that we did not include in the budget last year. In order for us to reduce that, and the jet fuel sales tax. So we received a grant from the DCA, Department of Community Affairs, thank you. And we have that money, but we don't include it, we can't include it in the sales tax line because it's not sales tax that are actually collected. It's money to replace it in the form of a grant. So I can't use it when we're calculating the sales tax credit because it's not actually money that's collected by the Department of Revenue as sales tax.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, at this time, we're going to have a public hearing. Madam Clerk, if you would read the rules.
Mr. Chair, real quick, before you go into that, do you mind if you can also just state within the budget that we put in some additional resources for police officers that are going to live in the county? Because I think there are a couple things that are in the budget that we need to make sure that folks understand and that we highlight. I know we sent it out, but there are just some key things that I know that you sent out. If we could just touch upon it, only so
Sure.
that it could be
Because I
on
know a lot
record,
of,
if you don't
several
mind,
other
sir.
things that I've heard here over the last few years, that you all did include in the budget was additional code enforcement officers to help the businesses to clean up. I think you also included some on PD side for residential. You also included funding for those public safety officers that newly hired that are moving to the county. I think it's $250 per month that they would receive for living in the county. That was included in the budget as well. Keep Clayton Beautiful. I think some funding was included in for that. And I can't think of what other, there was something else.
We added
Other than
some
the,
officers for the prison refuge control
That's
for
the
each
other, the reference control. So
commissioner district.
previously, last year, we only had one cleaning crew to service the whole county. This year, we included funds in our budget to provide a cleaning crew for each district. So all 4 districts will have a dedicated cleaning crew to service that area. So to help keep it cleaner, because it was difficult. We have even though we're a small county, it's a lot of coverage for one crew to cover. So by the time they leave this side of the county, go to the other side, this side is dirty again. Now you have someone there that can service that area on a continuous basis. So yes, that was included as well.
So now with what you've recommended, we're able to do all of that without increasing the millage rate.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Clerk.
Citizens will be given 3 minutes maximum time to speak before the Board of Commissioners. Please state your name and county of residency for the record. Speak clearly into the microphone, and speakers should be courteous, respectful, and not make any disparagatory remarks or use abusive language when addressing the board.
And I'm just going to add to that, please keep your comments germane to the millage hearing. that's what this hearing is about. So please keep your comments and address the millage rate. And as she stated also, address your comments to this board, and let's always be respectful at all times. Mr. Alvin Farmer.
Could you pass this to the chairman, one of you, please? That information was not spelled out correctly for me, sir. Alvin Farmer, Clayton County. I would ask, how much money do you need without raising the property tax? Because I found money has been wasted in the county. First of all, you sent me a letter, certified letter to my house from a Mr. Cofield. That letter cost $6.80. You could have waited till I came to this meeting. Any time it gave me the letter saved, that's $6.80. That's our tax dollars you spent. I got a refund of $5 because I joined the Griswold Center as well as the Aquatic Center. That letter to me cost 50 cents to send that to my house. I informed your chief financial officer about this. There's a miscommunication problem in that problem because I spoke to another lady that she did the same thing, but at the library at our direct center at Lovejoy, they gave her $5 back in cash and just had her sign a receipt. That's the information that I passed on to your CFO. One of the gentlemen came, one of the meetings, and says, y'all are spending $400 and $400,000, don't know where our $400,000 are going. The development authority is spending $500,000, and basically that's not working either. And they're asking the board for $700,000. Mr. Leatherwood's lawyer, which I'm sure didn't do out of his pocket, and then the board made a bad decision, and then the lawyer approved him correctly, and the county paid for that lawyer. I informed you that recycling might generate some money for the county, but not even in this building do I see recycling. This meeting should be held on a Saturday, probably around 11 a.m., so the majority of Clayton County people can come to this meeting and then tell you their inputs about this. You approve more apartments and homes for this county, but then you're going to need more money for that, and since the school thing, it affects them also, they probably going to need an increase in their taxes to accommodate that thing. And how does this fuel tax, being she says she can't use it, how does it count towards the money of that? Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you. Mickey Garber.
Mickey Garber, unincorporated, Rex, Georgia. I don't have a solution to all your money problems. I just have ideas to help correct some of your problems. And in this, what I mean is I am definitely opposed to either raising taxes, and I'm opposed to raising the millage rate. However, I'm not opposed to increasing the value of my property and all my fellow citizens' property. If our value of our property is increased, then therefore the taxes received on the digest for Ms. Bevins will be increased. How do you do that? One solution is to stop building apartments and lower priced housing in our county. If we want our values to go up, demand has to go up. Demand goes up, drives up the value. Driving up the value, you will get your tax revenue. That is only one solution that I have. I know our problems are multifaceted. I know that having this one solution is not going to be the where-all and for-all of everything, but it's going to take all of us thinking along the same lines of keeping our values high. Aim high, even if you hit low, but maintain high values. Thank you.
Larry Brock.
Good morning, Larry Brock. My questions have been answered, sitting in the hearing here, so I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Garrett Ashley.
Chairman Turner, Board of Commissioners. My name is Garrett Ashley. I'm a resident of unincorporated Clayton County and a graduate from Mundiesville High School. Current chairman of the Clayton County Republican Party. I am glad to praise the county and its rich history, its well-earned achievements when it deserves it. Yet our government administration leaves much to be desired, especially in the area of financial management. This week, particularly yesterday, the Board of Education voted to maintain a tentative millage rate. They made it permanent yesterday of 20 mills, which is the highest allowable by state law for the Board of Education. Do you, as elected leaders, listen to your constituents, or do you listen to unelected administration employees? Will you continue to adopt increasingly oppressive millage rates and alienate the voters while abandoning fiscal responsibility? Clayton County did lose a sizable piece of revenue recently in the jet fuel tax, but that should have been an excuse to rewrite the budget from scratch rather than force the tab on property owners in this county. How is this going to affect businesses in this county? Will businesses be incentivized to remain in this county? I know we talk off and on about Terra Boulevard, Highway 54, Georgia 85, there being empty properties and ugly storefronts, but if we raise taxes on property, again, I know we lowered it, and that was a good job, but raising it again, how is that incentivizing business owners to come into this county? How is that incentivizing homeowners to purchase property? How is that incentivizing renters to lower the price on rental properties? This is not a long-term solution. You can't expect the tax base to remain in the county if you keep raising taxes. Serving as our commissioners, I know, is not an easy job, and thank you for doing the job that many people in Clayton County don't want to do. However, we need to rein in excessive spending and spend within the net budget revenue that we're creating each year. We pay the highest tax rates in Metro Atlanta. I know of a couple that moved to Clayton County from Johns Creek. They pay more in Clayton County than they did for a custom 6,000 square foot home in Johns Creek, and they had the best of everything, yet they're paying nearly twice as much down here for what some may call subpar services. I know of, actually last night I was speaking to a resident of the Lake Spivey community who said that there's whisperings of them annexing to Henry County. That is not good for this county.
Your time is up, sir.
Thank you.
George Pitts. It's not George. Gwen, maybe? No. Georgia.
Georgia, please. Miss Georgia.
She's Georgia, but I was here earlier, but I didn't sign the paper. I came in a little bit.
Okay, I'm calling Miss Georgia, I'm sorry.
Excuse me?
Miss Georgia is the one who's signed up.
Right,
She's the one that can
She
speak.
didn't want to speak, and she.
If you didn't sign up, ma'am, you can't speak at this time, but come back at 6 o'clock. We'll allow you to speak at that time.
Okay.
Frank. Is that Cobbs? Thank you. Timothy Vondale Jefferson.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. Timothy Vondale Jefferson. I'm gonna lean on the professional on this. I'm gonna recommend that we go with the CFO position of maintaining where we are. However, as I listen to the report and I listen to the citizens and I understanding the overall view of how this county operates and the funding necessary, we are in a privileged position, I believe, at an 8% sales tax. When I say we're in a privileged position, if we become more aggressive on our upscale development, development is a trickle-down effect. As the CFO was stating, 1 mil in Atlanta is 25 million, and 1 mil in Clayton County is 7 mil because of the amenities, the quality of services, and the ability to shop, live, work, and play, which increases that millage rate. So what we have to do as a body and as a team, I believe, is that we really have to put in a performance matrix with our development and our development authority in order to target live here, work here, play here development, where we can have a double whammy of a quality of life, but yet our 8% sales tax stays within the community, and we won't have to put in the zip code in certain particular places. So as we focus on a quality of life, economic development is critical on a trickle-down effect as we be able to provide the services, professional services necessary to make this county work. So that's the overall view from my position. Economic development is critical to any community. We have got to put our best minds around it, and we have to work as a team moving forward. And then I think we'll be able to take advantage of the 8% sales tax where we do not have to tackle the millage rate and leaning on it so heavily. And that's what it trickled down to our school board, and there can be some adjustments made. So that's what I would highly recommend that the board focus on. What can we do to transform our community, the quality of life, live here, work here, play here, so we don't have to be so lean and mean on the citizens moving forward as far as paying taxes. Thank you so much.
Jeffrey Benoit.
Chairman, Commissioners, Jeffrey Benoit, 5783 Rex Mill Drive, Rex, Georgia. First of all, I want to give kudos to your CFO for doing a yeoman's job in doing these numbers. I know a lot of them went over a lot of people's head, but she got them all back down. I like the fact that she stated that we're going to maintain the millage rate from last year. However, maintaining that millage rate from last year as to what we did with it last year trickles over to where we are today. We did not put that money to good use. We're not putting that money to improving our counties. I do recognize that we've now got 4 cleaning crews that's going to hit different sectors, different districts, as opposed to what was going on in the past. Dr. Henry Anderson sat here time and time again and gave us reports of the county and the status of what was going on up and down 85, down Tar Boulevard, and the like. And we overlooked all of that, and that reflected on how people saw Clayton County and how people feel about Clayton County and the flight that has taken place in Clayton County as it applies to living here, as it applies to shopping here, and the like. So we have a problem there. So although we're doing it now, it's not something we did before. And it hurts us. It hurt us. And so right now, we don't have that revenue to do what we need to do, because that revenue is supposed to do what? Improve our communities. Give us a sense of wanting to be there. Over in the Rex area, I'm quite sure you remember, we put a statue over there of Melvina Shields. Anybody remember that? Miss Obama's relatives. Right there in the center of Rex Mill. Guess what? Nobody can get there because we closed that bridge. We built another bridge, so they got to go all the way around there. There's no directions to it, so nobody even knows it's there. Even the small e-commerce that was there, they're all gone out of that area. Why? Because that bridge wasn't repaired. So when we talk about property value and what our tax dollars should be doing, it's not doing that. It is not doing that. We got more Family Dollars around here that got more garbage, and I think Mr. Vondell posted just the other day, hordes of garbage around the Family Dollars. Yes, these are the things that are hurting our counties, but we yet still want to levy the taxes on the backs of the citizens. And the citizens cannot take the taxes that businesses have left the community and not coming back into the community. And then to caveat in the last 30 seconds, we have to watch our assessed values. Yes, Mr. McDaniels will be in Superior Court, because what my property taxes are as they apply to my mortgage company is not the assessed value for this county. The county's assessment is well excessive to what it is nationally. So that'll be addressed in court, in Superior Court, as I challenge this. But I would say to the county, let's do a better job for the citizens who you said you were running to serve, because right now they're not being served to the point of what they're trying to be assessed, and that is their hard-earned dollars. Thank you.
Betty Williams. Okay. Cheryl Weiss. Cheryl Weiss, or Lewis, I'm sorry. Cheryl Lewis. Okay. Bernice Davis. Thought she didn't sign up.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Board. I'm here because.
State your name. Your
My name
residence.
is Bernice Davis. I live at 4279 Cottage Lane, Connolly, Georgia. I believe it's unincorporated. What I want to know is, what type of taxes do the business that surround my subdivision pay? Because it seems as though you're always coming to the taxpayers for an increase of our taxes, and we don't even know if they are getting an increase, because we don't see them at any meetings. We don't hear about it. And I read the paper because I want to know what's going on in Clayton County. And a lot of things that I see that's going on in Clayton County, as the gentleman said, the budget, you seem to not always want to raise our taxes, but we don't see where our money is going. And we don't see what it is doing in the community, especially in my community, because I'm mostly around a subdivision. My subdivision is around a lot of trucking businesses, and I don't see a lot of activity as far as keeping up our community unless I go to Sona or I speak to her in reference to something. But I also want to mention that my taxes, my property taxes has not been up in about 3 years. My property tax, that $150 that she said, I was shocked because mine hasn't been back up there since the recession. And I just need to know, what are you guys going to really do to help us, the taxpayers that help this community to run and to help Clayton County to run? You act as though we don't matter. You act as though we are a bottomless pit of money. Anytime you get ready to raise our taxes, you do so. And I just think it's unfair. And I think you guys need to really restructure your budget or something, because the money is not reflecting in my community. I can't speak for anyone else's, but in my community, it's not reflecting what it is doing. So I appreciate the time.
Right quick, ma'am. Commercial and residential properties are assessed and taxed.
Okay.
So they pay their fair share as well, as Ms. Bivens' presentation just showed you what the values were. And
What percentage?
get with her on that. She'll be able to give you the specific, but I think it's the same as
The millage rate, actually, businesses pay more because they don't get the $10,000 homestead exemption. So they pay the same millage rate, but they pay it on $10,000 more than a homeowner that actually lives in their home would, because they don't get the $10,000 homestead exemption.
And plus,
Commissioner.
the only thing I was gonna add, because I used to be a business owner in the county, and plus we also pay on our personal property in the county as well. The business owner pays several times. You have to pay for the business license, which is the ad valorem tax, and then you also have to pay the millage rate, that tax as well, and then you pay the business tax, which is the income that you bring in, and then you're assessed and taxed on your personal property. That means every desk, every chair, every computer. Yes, ma'am.
And lastly, I'm gonna say, budgets are, as we build our budget every year, we do listen to our tax-paying citizens, because what they wanted was a more cleaner Clayton County. So we had to come up with initiatives to address keeping Clayton County cleaner, and that's what we've done. So we are listening, we do hear you, and sometimes it might take a little longer to materialize, but just know, this board has the citizens' interests at heart.
And Mr. Chair, and I'm so sorry, y'all just please listen to the fact that there are items in this budget that were not in the budget last year, and the millage rate is staying the same. And the items are addressing just what we've heard over and over again, which is the cleanliness. As someone would mention about the family dollars, we have a brand new task force that we've never had before. As Mr. Chairman always reminds me, because I'm like you, at the end of the day, I might be elected, but I want it done. I want to see it done. He says, we got to be patient, because you can't put something in place in June and then expect to see it, the remnants of it already in August. So they're actually hiring folks. We just put people on that board, Chair. It was what board was that? The Citizens Review, the License Review Board, which will address the trash of the businesses. So if a business owner is not keeping their business up to par moving forward, we don't have to just wait for the court systems to give us information back or to move on whatever they feel they see fit. You now have a license review board that is run by your citizens and in tandem with the police department and refuse control. So the only thing I would say is to piggyback on Chairman, just please everybody read what we put in the budget, because actually we're doing more with less this year, but that was just approved. Just approved, it just went in to the fiscal year of June. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. Bobby Johnson. Bobby Johnson. Okay. Teresia DeWitt. Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, that concludes public comment. If there's no other business before this board, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second? I'll second the motion. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you.